a team that's in the playoff race in the Western Conference are the Dallas Mavericks, and it feels like we've been talking about only Western Conference teams this episode because we have. And after the Mavericks lost to the Houston Rockets the other night, Tim McMahon asked Kristaps Porzingis, why didn't you take a shot in the fourth quarter? And Porzingis said, good question. It's just the plays we were running. It happened before also. Kristaps Porzingis had 23 points and 12 rebounds versus the Rockets and did not even get a shot attempt in the fourth quarter, all while Luka had 23, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and shot 9 for 26 from the field that game. Jeez. And a 1 for 9 from the three-point line. And Luka kept taking bad shot after bad shot, and KP was not a part of the offense at all. Do you guys feel like the duo of KP, Kristaps Porzingis, and Luka Doncic are going to work? Do you believe in this duo, or do you think it's time to move on?
I think it's been overhyped since I think we all fell in love with the idea of okay, Luka, Kristaps Porzingis, pick and pop player. They should work. Like Luka's passing ability is elite. They should definitely work. But I think with the combination of Porzingis having limited offense after coming back from his injuries, and also not being there enough, Rick Carlisle trusting Luka Doncic more to make plays for himself and make decisions on his own than really running the offense through Porzingis. I think it's just been a lot of that, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Porzingis is gone this summer. I think this experiment has gone its course. I don't think it's going to work. I think with him being injured all the time and him this is not his first time complaining. This is not his first time looking down in a loss, not really being comfortable with the fact that he doesn't get a ball a lot. So I think he'll be gone this summer. I think they should just look for another option. And luckily they have Luka, who's a generational talent, so they're always going to be good at some point. But this duo doesn't work. It hasn't worked, and it's probably not going to work down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I think Riv said it in the beginning. We all kind of fell in love with the idea of Kristaps and Luka. And on paper, it should work out. But to me, the biggest thing that has derailed their duo, I would say, is the injuries, just because Kristaps hasn't been in the lineup consistently with Luka. And also, since Luka has been in the lineup consistently, he's had more opportunities to prove himself. And so when it comes down to the big moments of the game, I don't blame Rick Carlisle for wanting to put the ball in Luka's hands. That's your guy. I would give him the shots at the end of the game in a tight game. So, I guess I kind of understand Kristaps' frustrations, because he thinks he's a star player and he deserves those shots. But when you're playing with a guy like Luka, I'm sure if you go back at Lakers games last year's in big-time fourth quarters, there was times where LeBron took all the shots down the stretch because LeBron is that dude, and sometimes you have to understand there's nights where he's going to get all the shots in the fourth quarter. But, I don't know how much Kristaps meshes with that role, if that makes sense. I think he thinks higher of himself than not getting any shots in the fourth quarter, and I think that might end up being the demise of this pairing. I also don't know if defensively he's the perfect partner for Luka. I feel like the Mavericks have been looking to fill that void on the defensive end, and Kristaps isn't helping that. But then you also got to look at how would they split them up, because Kristaps is still making $30 million plus over the next 4 years. So, if you trade him, I think you're going to be selling low on his value at this point. Coming off of an injury, he still, I don't think, has gotten back to his peak of what he can be. So I don't know if they end up moving on from him, but I don't think that these two will ever become the pair that we thought they were going to.
I think John Collins to Dallas becomes more realistic, honestly.
For me, when KP was quoted saying this and when I saw the interview, I thought it was more of a shot at Rick Carlisle than at Luka. But also, Luka in the past, when KP has had bad games, Luka has called out KP. Luka has made it known, you played bad, and kind of rubs it in. And part of me thinks that Luka and KP don't get along. You mentioned that everybody fell in love with this duo, and the reason they did is because they're both European. Let's just call it how we see it. They're both European players. They're both from Latvia, I believe.
Are they really?
Yes, I believe they're both from the same place.
So are they going to be in the same Europe?
Yes. If you could, Jack, you could. if you could, Jack, fact check that for me. I don't want to be misinform the audience, but I'm pretty sure they're both from Latvia. So everybody wanted this to work, but I do question if Luka and KP like each other. And this situation reminds me of two other stars that came together one time, but it was clear that it didn't work because their play styles just didn't mesh together. And the player that had problems with them actually plays like KP. Actually plays like Luka. And that was James Harden when Dwight Howard went to Houston. This situation reminds me of James Harden and Dwight Howard. Everybody wanted it to work, but their game styles just don't mesh, and they just don't like each other. There's not a real friendship or relationship. I think Kristaps Porzingis is a special talent, but in the NBA, your shine and your spotlight as the babyface kind of sails pretty quickly. Kristaps in New York, known as the Unicorn. Kevin Durant nicknames him that. He's having a great time in New York. He tears his ACL. He doesn't play in a year. He then goes to Dallas. We see some flashes. But that time, the time where we all were in love with KP and his talent, has kind of sailed. We know the type of player he is going to be now moving forward. We know it. And I think while he is a special talent, he's not as good as he thinks he is. I do think he's better than getting 0 shots in the fourth. He should definitely get some shots in the fourth.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's as good as he thinks he is. I think the Dallas Mavericks have to construct a team around Luka. And KP is more of a face-up 4. He does do pick and pops. He can be a roll man, but that's not what he really likes to do. He likes the offense to be run through him in the face-up game, getting the ball, creating shots for himself. That's what he likes. And when you have a ball-dominant player like Luka, that's just not going to be realistic. I think he's been a liability for the Mavericks because on defensively, he's not that great. And on offense, while he's good offensively, I think they can find another player who can do things similar to KP, but also bring in that defensive value. You know, I mentioned a trade earlier in the year that maybe KP can get traded to Washington for Denny Advia, Davis Bertans, and Troy Brown, and maybe some picks. You know, I think Davis Bertans gives you the shooting that KP would have gave you. I think Bertans is a better shooter. Troy Brown gives you a wing defender, and Denny Advia just gives you a player with tremendous upside. And you get a pick. I think with KP, you know, while his value was still high, you could do it. But at this point, I don't know how valuable he is as a trade asset now, especially considering his injury history.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't know how feasible it is to break these two up because of the contract, because of the injuries. And, you know, I don't know how much lower than his value they're going to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that they would want to give up much in a trade outside of Porzingis, you know, compared to what they would gain, if that makes sense. So I just don't know if it works out logistically for them to move on from him. But I don't think that this pairing is ever going to be what we thought it was going to be.
So Luka's from Slovenia.
Yeah.
And KP's from Latvia.
That'd have made the little.
They are both European.
That'd have made the World Cup so much sweeter.
What World Cup?
You know how when they play, like USA plays other countries, it'd have been on the same team.
But yeah, I mean, KP, he hasn't been bad this year. He's averaging 20 points per game.
I just think they don't
9
fit.
rebounds, 1.6 blocks per game, 47% from the field and 36% from 3. But you just can't trust KP long-term with his injury history. And I think the Mavericks would be in a better position if they were to trade KP now rather than keep him and risk him getting injured, which is probably a possibility at this point, and then getting nothing from him and still having a player on a pretty huge contract on your roster.
Yeah, and I do wonder, kind of to hit on a point that you made briefly, like, I wonder if it would have been different if he started his career in Dallas. If he never got to be in New York as the guy, and you remember how it was in New York, like he was becoming like a part of New York sports folklore. Like he was a legend already in 2 seasons because he had started to show a little bit of a turnaround with the Knicks, and then obviously the injuries came. But you know, I think he kind of came to Dallas expecting a similar type of love and spotlight, and he never really got that because he was always overshadowed by Luka. Rightfully so. Luka should be the guy getting that love, that adoration, that number one guy treatment. But I think that Porzingis was expecting more of that in Dallas, and he just never got it. And I do think it's affected him in a way.
Dallas just isn't that market.
Exactly.
And I think what's made it even worse is that KP on his way out from New York basically bashed the Knicks organization. And then a year or two later, they're good. They're in the playoffs, and Julius Randle has taken your spotlight.
To be fair, it's a different organization than it was when
it
they
is,
traded
but
him.
still, Julius Randle has taken your spotlight and was better in the role that you were in when you were with the Knicks. Because Randle is a defender, he's a shooter, he's shooting 40% from three this year, a better rebounder, a better passer. I mean, Julius is taking a spotlight from KP. And I remember when the Knicks signed Julius Randle, I said, Julius Randle is better than Kristaps Porzingis.
And he sucked that
and
year.
everybody thought I was crazy.
Yeah,
Bro,
he
you're talking
sucked.
crazy. But I said, no, I have a crystal ball in front of me. And I saw the future of Julius Randle leading the Knicks to the playoffs. And that's exactly what he's going to do this season. And that's why Randle, when I said it when he first got signed, he's better than KP. And now nobody is questioning that take.
Yeah, you're crazy.
Because Randle was good in the Pelicans. I told everybody, watch. He had to adjust 1 year with the Knicks. It was his first year really becoming the man. He had
So
to
like
adjust.
Tom Thibodeau,
Yeah, I think
that
it-
has
I
nothing
think it's more
to do
No,
with
it
it.
has
than
something to do
anything.
with it, definitely.
Because
I
I
think it's
really
more Thibodeau
believe
than
if you had the
anything.
same coach, you wouldn't be where you're at right now.
No,
Agreed.
I think also Julius Randle came into training camp this offseason
That is very true.
really
Which
in shape.
I think a lot of that has to do with Thibodeau, honestly. Like, I think that he had the players with a different level of excitement than prior, rightfully so, because the Knicks have not had a coach on the level of Thibodeau
You haven't
the
been
last
good
couple
since
years.
Melo.
We're good now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you haven't been good since Melo. I'm talking about a couple of years before Melo actually left too.
Well, we're good right now. That's all that matters. We're better than Chicago Bulls, but definitely I think the Mavericks should split up this duo of Luka and KP. I think the experiment has failed. Not only do their play styles not mesh, but also they seem to not like each other as people. And if you don't have that from your two best players, it's going to be really hard to win and go far into playoffs.
It rarely works out when your top two players don't get along.
It only worked with Kobe and Shaq.
And even
they're
that.
two generational super. It didn't work, but it amounted to two chips.
They won, but
Yeah.
it ended up going up in flames in the end.
That's
I
what
mean,
you
if it was Luka and Embiid, that's different. But
got
it's
to milk it out.
KP.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're not Shaq, you're not Embiid, you're not a top 15, top 20 player in the NBA. You can't be talking and feeling like you should get the credit of that if you haven't earned it. Luka has earned it. He's earned the right to be a top 10 player in this league. He's earned the right to talk like a top 10 player in this league. You haven't, and now they're gonna ship you out.
We'll see if they do. They might not.
Well, yeah,
I don't think they're going to. I
feel like they can find somebody.
I don't think at
Yeah.
least for like the next year they're going to trade Porzingis.
We'll give them
Maybe
Laurie.
in a year from now it'll change, but I just think that contract situation.
We'll give them
and
Laurie and Thomas Sanaradsky and Thaddeus Young. That's valid.
Daniel Tice.
No, he's our backup center. He's tough.